going to touch down and talk about the perfect storm of conditions forcing studios to prioritize retention and some approaches that are going to help you stand out in a loud and crowded market, because that's what we have. It's the only way to grow profitably. If you look at the data from AppsFlyer, it tells us UA costs are soaring. They're up 40% in the past 6 months. And even if you can pay for the players, hey, well, you know what? You can't keep them, because Sensor Tower reveals about 75% of new users are still dropping off within the first 3 days of downloading. It is a fierce battle. You have to keep players hooked. And that's why we're doing it. We're bringing together 2 studio executives to share their secrets with us, and my co-host, no secret at all, Fahim Syed, director at F Samurai. I have to say, a voice, of course, in the industry. How are you doing? It's been a little bit of time, hasn't it?
I am good, Peg. Yeah, I mean, it has been a while, but we always get back with some really solid content. So it has
There
been
you
a
go.
good push, but we have some really good things to talk about. We have had some very good episodes in the previous podcast, so this is going to be no different.
Yeah, we are crushing it out there, Fahim, is what I want to say. And to keep it going, we've got great guests. I brought one of them, I have to say, full disclosure, in from Pocket Gamer, because I was just so totally impressed. CK Wang, CEO of Coup Apps. And Coup Apps, they have made over 30 titles, including Snake.io, that has celebrated, what anniversary is it, CK?
Yeah, we're at 450 million. Yeah, installs for the company, and so we're working hard, but we're very happy. Yeah.
And how many years? How many years anniversary?
Yeah, we're at like 6 years now. Yeah, 7 years. Yeah. Starting to lose count, but yeah, 7 years. Yeah.
You've been around and you keep your players coming back. 6 years is a lot these days. And you're expanding into new territories with a comic that we all need to check out, and virtual currency. So yes, we're excited to have you.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And David Vignoni, CEO at Midnight, right?
Hi.
Midnight. Great to have you. Development studio in Italy, which I love personally, focused on hybrid RPG titles and engaging puzzle titles. A great portfolio with collaborations with publishers such as Homa, Voodoo, and hey, you yourself embarking on self-publishing. That takes grit. And it's all about keeping and captivating those players. And so, yes, you know a lot about retention. You also know a lot about gaming, because I don't know, David, you're the first one ever who was playing games on an iPod that I've run across. So you are pretty hardcore.
Yeah, thank you. I've been a pocket gamer even before the iPhone came out.
Yeah. Well, you both know games. You both love them. They're your life. You know what it takes to keep players engaged, right? But that's hard-won knowledge. That's something we don't know. That's why you're here to talk about the pitfalls that can lead to literally game over. So starting with you, David, start with you. What is the strategy that you tried that just didn't fly?
Yeah, sure. I think our mistake here was quite big, and it hurt us a lot. And it was related by the fact that we didn't build an MVP for this feature. So basically, in the past 2 years, we have been working on hybrid RPGs, but we came from a puzzle background, and we still had like some of these games that we wanted to revive. And so we did that. We took one of those games and we did it from scratch. And we tested it, and it had decent metrics. So we showed it to a publisher, and they tested it, and it was 37% they want retention, which was promising because the game had lots of banners and interstitials already. And they said, okay, try to take it to above 40. And we sat down and we thought what we could do, and we decided that basically what was missing was a deeper layer of a meta game. And we decided to build these villages. And we went on this quest of building 6 villages, different art styles, lot of assets, and we implemented in a way that was not coherent with the game, which was a puzzle game. And so we tested the game again after 2 months of developing this, and retention, instead of going above 40, it went towards the 20s. And we couldn't we were in disbelief. So we started looking for excuses, started looking for crashes and other tweaks in the flow that we had made, and at the same time tried to fix that, tried to change, but nothing was getting the game back to the close to 40% retention that we had. So publisher lost interest, and when that happened, we decided okay, let's just remove the villages and test again, and boom, retention went up. So I guess the big issue there was that we developed a feature without getting back into the mindset of that specific genre with a bias, and we developed with a bias for hybrid RPGs, and we developed something super complex with waiting times and different options, and it didn't work at all for puzzle games. And that's my sad story about it went horribly wrong.
But it went well. It went well in the end. You found it out. You fixed it. It went back up to where it was, right?
Yeah. Now, I mean, we would like to get the assets that we've built and do a much simpler version that could work. But for now, we're too busy with other stuff. So it was kind of a missed opportunity.
But a really important lesson, because we're seeing it so often. Content has to be frequent, has to be fresh, change it up, mix the genres. And we're also seeing that games that don't release enough content, like every 4 to 6 weeks, for example, they see massive churn. So content is not always the answer. Now, you have a different approach, CK. What have you seen fail miserably in a game? Because you are true to your content. You've got your brand down. Snake.io is through and through Snake.io.
Yeah, definitely. So when I asked my game designers, hey, how do we increase, retention? How do we get people to play more Snake.io? They always come up with the first idea is always, let's make more game modes. Let's make more fun. A lot of people some people want to play a faster pace, more competitive. Some players want to play a slower pace. So let's make a lot of different game modes. And of course that's with the DNA of everybody here, gamers company. That's of course the first thing we try. But actually, out of the maybe 6 or 7 different game modes we've ever launched, from the data, similar to David, we would look at the data and we see that it's actually just cannibalizing each other. And so you would think that we're making fun game mode, people are going to play. Unfortunately, we're seeing more cannibalization from each of our game modes, if anything. And so that's not to say we won't try. I think our heart is there. We're forever going to try. We're going to keep trying a lot of game modes. But I think. I think making games, at the end of the day, there's a lot of trial and error. And so, with David's story, we have a lot of those stories. I think, 90-95% of our new games fail, 90-95% of our new features fail. That's part of the fun part. When one succeeds, the entire team celebrates. But I think game modes would cannibalize. I think testing in-app purchase. When we released in-app purchase on Snake, the first thing was not enough people are buying. Let's A/B test pricing. That's usually a good idea, and everybody is good students of economics and price elasticities. That's the first idea we would try. But when we look at the data, we go, okay, we really, when you run tests like this, you need 300 users. On the control flight, 300 on the variant flight, and we need to sum of all of that. You better be spending, I'd say $200K, $300K a month on IAP users targeting to be able to sustain those A/B tests. And so, you better be calling your marketing team and ramp up the UA spend there and target in-app purchase spenders to be able to run A/B tests like that. And so, definitely a lot of learnings, a lot of things that don't work. On the in-app purchase side, I'd say, my first advice there is, of course, to start testing, features that don't have any downside. So, for example, previously, if you didn't show a subscription pop-up, now you do. And that's not going to hurt in-app purchase because people who want it, they're going to subscribe, and people who don't, they're not. The possible downside is perhaps that ads-based users will see that and possibly churn. But you have a lot of those users, right? Let's say if your in-app purchase conversion rate is 1%, you have 99% of users that don't spend in-app purchase. So you have enough data of that, and you can decide, hey, is this trade-off worth it or not? But A/B testing pricing, like $3 subscription per month versus $6 subscription per month, you're going to need a lot of UA spend to be able to get that data, and if it's not polished, then you're going to be losing money on that UA spend, and so that could be very painful. So
there's that downside, but you do have that upside because you looked at what you thought would work, and that's the interesting thing, right? The real surprise is that sometimes it's the exact opposite of what we would expect. You would say, oh, more game modes, more fun, gotta mean more money, but it doesn't, not always. Fahim, we can hear there are some myths here that we're busting. What's one that you would add?
Yeah, so one thing that both David and CK covered was usually game developers, they try to add in new levels, new tactics to, let's say, increase the UA spend or possibly increase retention, but the users might not respond very well to this, and that's where kind of as a rewarded partner, usually reward offer walls or something that is a very common channel that is being used these days by a lot of hyper casual, hybrid casual games, where all these deep funnel events are targeted as a rewarding mechanism. So let's say download the game and reach level 10, for example. The assumption being by the time the user reaches the level 10, they have consumed just enough ads for the advertiser or the gaming publisher to be ROAS positive. And then even if they drop down, that LTV is somewhat easy to calculate as well. A lot of the issues that people see on offer walls is to increase the deep funnel retention, you have to reward the user in a certain manner. Just enough reward that you are ROAS positive, and that funnel activation that could be in day 14, day 30, day 50, etc., that needs to be rewarded back to the user as well. So one thing that we have seen as a common misconception is anything that you plug in on the offer wall because you're giving out a reward, the user will eventually reach that level or play that level. But one thing that we need to be aware of is a lot of competitors are also bidding for the same user. So if a different competitor is rewarding the user a bit more easier compared to your event flow, maybe they have added extra levels. Maybe they have added in extra, let's say, in-app bonuses or bonus packs, etc. So those are just enough incentives for the user, because the rewarded user's entire economy is around how can I maximize my earnings in the most minimum time, right? So that's where kind of a lot of this competition, which is I think healthy for the economy as well. Advertisers learn from each other as well, that you have a game that works really well, but to make it actually work even better, all you need to do is maybe reward the user mid funnel, add in a new level, maybe give them a deeper funnel, maybe tell them, okay, when you reach this level, go watch 2 rewarded video ads, you're going to get a bonus, and then continue playing. So you already earn extra eCPMs by showing them those rewarded videos. The user gets extra coins in this, and they can continue the journey. So the idea of kind of using one offer wall, but the way you set up a campaign, the way you design games, certain advertisers come to us and ask for recommendations. Okay, I'm setting up my events on my attribution partner. Which events do I select? So we help them based on data. Okay, if this event takes X minutes or X hours, let's kind of pitch these levels accordingly. So for the user, it's a smoother flow to that journey rather than just focusing on ROAS, because ROAS comes when the user is actually interested. And to help them bring to that farm of apples, you need to first kind of walk them through the field as well.
That jives with a lot of what I'm hearing out there. You want to have player progression. So you want to have it not super simple, but to your point, and I didn't think about that, Fahim, it's also about the timing. It's about the timing and getting that placement right. So what we're hearing is basically not every strategy lands as planned. Some things have an opposite effect. So let's shift gears and talk about the wins, right? Where and how you have been able to really captivate player attention and how you channel that attention to improve monetization, because that's what it's all about. CK, you talked about the differences with the ad-based, the in-app purchase. What are you seeing that really works?
Yeah, definitely. A recent win we had is actually trading off interstitials for RV. So generally, rewarded video is a better experience. People are opting in; they're getting reward. Whereas interstitials, it's a little bit more jarring. You finish a level, an interstitial pops up. Let's say if you really like the ad, you'll go install the game, and you might never come back. And so in one of our games, Piano Tiles 2, we actually just ran an A/B test where we traded half of our interstitials for doubling our RV. It was pretty much a one-for-one trade. We ended up seeing a retention increase with the revenue being a slight increase as well, because generally rewarded video ads are longer. You cannot cancel. So they have slightly higher CPMs. Kind of depends on the game. Sometimes it's plus 10%, plus 30%. In our case, it was probably plus 10% for this specific game. And so we actually also had not only a retention improvement, but also a slight revenue improvement, trading off interstitials for RV. And so that was a big win for the team. Of course, like we said earlier, 90% of our tests don't succeed. And so this was after the 10th test of, what do people, what's more acceptable and what do people want to see in the game in terms of ad frequency and experience and all that. So I would broadly advise that, generally RV, we see much lower churn rate because they're opting in, they're getting rewards, and typically it's a reward that the user is really excited about, that they want, and so they're much more likely to come back. And so anytime we can take that trade-off, we'll do it. On the in-app purchase side, starter battle passes are really, really popular now in the industry. We just launched a battle pass. It's our number one in-app purchase right now. And we're seeing that battle passes generally are kind of long and a little bit complex. So ours specifically is about 60-day battle pass. And so, a lot of people, even though we have tutorials and all that, the conversion rate still could be higher. But despite that, it's already our number one in-app purchase. And so we're really excited to ship a starter battle pass where it's much shorter time frame, usually around 10 to 15 days, where people get a taste, they get all the intro missions and collect experience from that, and then get onboarded to the real seasonal battle pass that tends to be longer and more difficult. And so we're really excited about that. We think that's going to dramatically increase our conversion rate for battle passes, probably 3 to 4x, but we'll see. So.
Wow. That's tremendous. And you said yourself, you get to also pace it. You get to see a lot about the gameplay and learn from that and make these relatively small tweaks that you're making, CK. I mean, you swap out interstitial for rewarded, or you have a different approach to a battle pass. So what we're hearing is, you watch and you learn from what you're seeing. It can be hit or miss, but you learn from the data, you learn from what you're observing. And David, that's what you do as well, because you've had a string of hits, but it's also for you experience using data to identify the key retention opportunities. What are you looking for? How do you approach that?
So in the past 2 years, we have been working mostly acquiring users from Overwatch. And these users, generally speaking, have a higher retention because they are incentivized by definition. However, as Fahim was saying, there is all this competition. There's a very difficult. It's more difficult to get them to reach those very far away events that will give you a much higher LTV. So when we started working in this manner, we started adding a lot of tracking a lot of data on the event level. So not just what the user overall was doing, but how much was the certain event on average bringing in at the LTV, EF LTV, how many interstitials, what was the play time between one level and another. And that helped us a lot to figure out how to prepare the campaigns so that they could continue and improve the retention for the longer term. But they also highlighted something that we were not expecting when we started working with Offerwalls, which was that we were expecting to get almost mercenary users, like they are just doing it for the quick buck. But instead, we identified things that there were many users that could get hooked into the game, and they would spend in the game a lot more than what they are actually going to make from the offers, or they could continue playing the game after the offer was completed, and we are actually actively looking for ways to tell to the player, hey, keep playing even if you completed the offer. Um, so one thing that we identified was that when the user, regardless if he was incentivized or not, makes the first reward, the first in-app purchase, that means that they have a higher likability to become loyal users. So we started implementing things like um, rewards for your first in-app purchase, or even removing the ads when you do any type of in-app purchase. That is also because we noticed, and this is something that some of like the bad sheeps of the incentivized users bunch, they could, for instance, like purchase, remove ads, finish the offer, and then get the refund for it. So we started like removing that
Yeah.
option altogether, and only selling consumable items that were harder to get refunded from the stores. And so yeah, this would be my um, my suggestion, like to try to convert the users to in-app purchases to at some point, because that usually, not always, but is a good indicator that you are finding the right user for the long term. Um, Another thing that obviously we need to, um, because we are working, the game design team is very well aware of how we are acquiring users. We are designing the games in a way so that we can offer the right offer to the player when they need it. So we know they are going to need to reach a quest number 20 that is going to require a certain amount of ingots, let's say. So we can prepare the game so that when they get to that point, we can offer that in different ways, either for the users who want the reward just to use rewarded videos, or to the ones that are already hooked and are ready to spend and they keep spending. Um, so to do and so the by we also make sure that we are segmenting the users in a way that, because the way in a way that the users that come from offer walls can for those users we can make all these offers and tailor it like almost guided experience, while for the organic users we tend to be less aggressive in all aspects. So like showing ads in a much later state, or being less pushy within a purchase unless they start like uh, showing interest into that.
Hmm. So I like that context meets cohort. Pretty cool. So, what about you, Fahim? What are you seeing that helps maximize player retention?
Yeah, so one thing that as we have been speaking on, right? So maximizing retention in the rewarded world is all about how much the user feels connected. Now, of course, the game dynamics play a massive role on how engaged the user will be with the game. But a huge portion of the users, when they're discovering new games, when they are before they start liking a new game, before they make that first purchase, that's where kind of the rewarding mechanism of how are those events established. For example, in the rewarded playtime that App Samurai offers, one thing that we are able to do is we are able to track the user session time. When I'm able to do this, I'm actually able to go back to the advertiser and report them, look, this user is dropping off at a certain cohort of time, and it's a big number, right? So maybe we can add in an extra bonus here, and we can add in an extra level during this duration, right? So because we help the user with a journey, we're like, here's an offer, and here's how the game looks like, and here's what you could possibly earn on top of finding a fun game that you would possibly love and spend time playing, right? So as we see the users build up progression, the retention, one of the key factors for this, as David mentioned as well, is once the user makes that first time purchase, it's very easy to kind of make sure that they would stick on for a longer period of time, because now they're investing inside your economy, right? And one of the main reasons we do this is because of the targeting options that we provide as well. So we do a lot of what we call as user scoring. So let's say we have a cohort of users that, as David mentioned, all they want to do is they want to just come to an offer, take the money, and just run away. They don't want to play the game. They don't want to do anything else, right? But then there's a certain aspect of gamers that are actually spending their time, so they're using it to earn money, but they're actually also reinvesting that money back into the game's economy, right? So we segment this portfolio of users, and then we take this cohort, we send them push notifications, we design a journey for them. Look, if in the next 6 days, if you play the game for 15 minutes and 20 minutes and at this duration, you'll basically be earning X amount of money, because this journey, this data already comes from the advertiser. The gaming studios know how a user would possibly perform based on the organic numbers. So we can take a similar journey, create a data set, and give it to the user that if you play the game for this duration in this manner with this kind of purchases, I'm going to give you a reward. You make a purchase, I'm going to give you an extra cashback on top of it, etc. And by the time you reach the day 5, day 7, day 15, the advertiser is already happy because you have pumped in money, you have generated purchases, you are a loyal user, you are a user with a significant decent LTV, and you'd carry on from there, right? So the way you basically make a user visualize the game, being in full transparency mode, here's a game, make the choice, you decide which game to play, but be smart about which game you select. Be smart on which game is designed for your likeness, right? And that plays a massive factor, especially for casual mid-core games that are very, very picky when it comes to day 7 and day 2 retention rates.
And what you're doing is you're creating that player journey. I mean, you're architecting that. It's something that the advertiser gets what they need. But, looking at someone like David, what I'm also getting is I'm getting the data and the insights to, wash, rinse, and repeat that as well, because he's very focused. You're very focused, David, on the cohort.
So we are using the data that we get from these users to be able to optimize the offers, and also to identify with funnels what are the pain points, and try to improve that. Because as there's a lot of factors when you are trying to achieve a good offer. Is, for example, you also want the first reward. I mean, in all these, there's also like the offer wall marketplace, let's say the platform, that also wants their part. So it's very important for them how fast they start getting something in return. So you start planning maybe you plan the journey of the player in a way that initially you start losing money because you want the offer wall to be kind of happy and see the conversions happening sooner than later. And but you at the same time you need to balance so that not so many users drop off before they start becoming truly valuable. And so, like, generally speaking, I try to keep that around day 7. Maybe we get 100% ROAS, and then we start growing from that. And then it really depends. Some campaigns work really well, and we may get 150% or even more at day 30 or day 40. And some other ones are not working because we are experimenting. So an example could be that when we want to try something new, we may launch a worldwide campaign with a lower budget, like a lower payout, and start getting results. And that in that case, it would be more like checking what is the average funnel that you can work with, and then you start to improve on that. And when you start looking at that, you also start designing the features in the game so that they will help the player to keep playing. And for example, when we were starting, there is this game we have been working on for a very long time, and we were getting too low conversions on the first stat that was, I don't know, something like reach level 10. And then it progressed quite nicely, but we wanted to improve that massively. And we started checking why that was. And we noticed that we were just throwing too much tooltips with the funny guy explaining things and doing puns. And so we mapped all of how many there were of these tips coming out in the first, I don't know, 2-3 hours of the game. And there were like something 67 times this guy would pop up and say things. So we designed an A/B test where we kept the control like that. Then on the first variant, we halved the amount of time, like removing all the puns, let's say. And on the second variant, it was like the bare minimum. It was mostly hand gestures showing where to tip, and the guy would just appear um, when it was absolutely necessary. So we went like from 67 to 5 of these tooltips, and we have been running the experiment. It's not over yet, but it's showing that either variant 1 or variant 2 are going to outperform massively the very annoying character.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I mean, retention is a journey, and you have to have the guideposts in there. You have to point that direction. But as we're hearing here, CK, too much can also be really too much of a good thing can backfire. What's an example? We're hearing about the shortcuts and how to avoid what backfires. What about you? Do you have an example you can share of a light bulb or breakthrough strategy that got you to where you want to go and maybe even beyond, maybe even exceeding expectations?
Yeah, definitely. I think this happened about like maybe a year and a half ago. Our team was we have a huge data team as well. We build our in-house BI tool and we look at a lot of data. We started realizing that like the world is getting busier and busier, and to re-engage players, you really need to start thinking outside the box. And so, as Peggy alluded to earlier, that we launched our comic. So we launched our comic earlier this year, and we're seeing that people on Twitter are looking at it, or checking it. It's like, whoa, like hyper casual games have comics, and it allows them to, a lot of people Snake.io has hundreds of millions of downloads, and so how do we get people to re-download the game and check out something new that they've never heard before, wasn't in the game when they played a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 years ago. So that's what we're working on actually, is how do we re-engage players that have played the game? How do we get them to download it? The comic is a great part. We're actually going through a huge redesign of the entire game currently. We're going to be launching that Q4. Fingers crossed, going to be buying a lot of pizza to launch this. But this huge rebrand, for our most loyal players, will be huge. Everybody we've play tested this to loves it. It's complete rebrand. The game's going to look completely different, and that's also a big reason for players to come back to the game. Players that played 3-4 years ago, that played for a whole year, they've got all their skins. Now they can come back to the game and go, wow, this feels like a completely new game, and it is. And we've shipped Battle Pass, we've shipped a lot of. We should have a party mode actually for you to play with friends as well. But I think players, because now it's such a busy world, that like they need like a headline, like a new reason to download this game. Just like for iPhone sales, like the recent iPhone trend is like AI is going to be on your phone, so everybody's going to upgrade. Instead of upgrading every 3 years, you're going to upgrade your phone even if it's only been a year. So they're going to supercharge that upgrade cycle. I think this world is getting really busy, and people need like a banner like why should I do this? And so having this big updates for your games and doing something new that can really grab that headline and give them a reason to download the game again is what we've seen be really successful. And for Snake, actually, half of our downloads every day are re-downloads. And so, it's something that we spend a lot of effort on.
It's all about the hook theme, is what we're hearing, right?
Exactly. As CK mentioned, right? One thing that is that people like games, but again, they have a limited amount of time that they're going to spend playing games. Now, there are hundreds and thousands of games out there. How does your game stand out? And that's where kind of a lot of these advertisers are using, as CK mentioned. Let's say there are a lot of re-downloads. So to motivate a user to kind of re-download. So back in the day, you might know in e-commerce we have a thing called as retargeting. You target a user who might have shopped before with a new promotion or new offer. It's kind of similar for games as well. It's like, hey, I know because an advertiser can provide a list of devices or users that have already downloaded the games at least once. For example, you go to the user and you're like, hey, you were a loyal user for this game and then you dropped out. If you download this game and if you follow a journey that we have designed to play the games, you get rewarded in return. And these are real life rewards. These are Amazon discount coupons. These are, Play Store and PayPal vouchers, for example, right? So that basically gives the user a unique motivation that, hey, I did like this game and now I can actually earn on this behalf as well. And what we have seen in the past year and a half is the play to earn is something that is a very, very interesting. The users know their power. They know, the advertisers want us to play more, so why not negotiate better, right? So they have all these options, they have all these options and choices to pick from. So the advertisers are also kind of being more and more smart, kind of giving them the rewards accordingly, giving them rewards more frequently. A same game that you would spend an hour playing every day, maybe at the end of the week that you could make like $10 off it, that game, right? So you already like a game, you are getting rewarded to play that game. That basically motivates you as a user. So the hook here is always kind of how important it is for you to grab the user's attention for that span of time, because all the other advertisers, they are pumping in the money, they're giving out those cash rewards, they're giving out those IAP bonuses. So that's the hook that all the users, all the gamers are looking out for these days.
I want to switch from the breakthrough strategies we've been talking about, right? I want to wrap it up with the tech, the trends, right? What is going to have the biggest impact on how studios grow profitably through retention? It's all about retention, how you plan it, how you adapt it, how you push it. So quick answers, but insights from each of you. I'll start with you, CK.
Yeah, I think what we're working on and really excited about is AI content moderation. As a small studio, we used to not be able to. We just don't have enough manpower for content moderate in real time, especially. But now with large language models and AI content moderation, we're able to do that real time, and this enables us to build multiplayer experiences without the fear of some of the downsides of multiplayer experience. And so we're really excited about that. That enabled us to launch party mode, and it's able to filter some of the inappropriate comments and moderate and make sure we have a safe and fun place for everybody to play. And so, yeah, we're really excited about that technology, and we have it in our games right now, and we're constantly improving.
Yeah, and you're bringing out party mode, as you said, so it works for you. David, what about you? What's the biggest tech or trend on the horizon for you?
I think one trend is going to be the offer wallization of the games themselves, so that you start using the same strategies used by offer wall sites to cross promote your own games, something like that.
Okay. Making a comeback. Everything goes around. What about you, Fahim? What are you seeing? You work with so many marketers. There must be some secret they've whispered to you.
Yeah, one thing that we have seen them is regarding the ability, as David mentioned, right? A lot of these advertisers have started kind of cross-promoting their own games. You have a loyal set of users that already likes your game, and when you're like, hey, here's my another game, play this game and get a reward in return for that, right? So the idea of kind of these, because with AI in play, it's very easy to create and kind of user acquisition for a game. The main constraint is the scale of it, as CK mentioned, right? The users are dropping off quick because the options are so many. So for them to be able to scale quick, you actually need to ensure that you are keeping the user the most engaged once they are inside your game. Now that could be by rewards, it could be by promoting your own games, because every game has a monetization portfolio. And once you start cross-monetizing your own apps, once you use things like rewarded session times, rewarded play times, reward the user for not actions but the amount of time they spend inside your game, and basically you improve your monetization strategy. That's how we're kind of seeing the advertisers work very closely with the UA partners, because the UA partners have a certain set of data from other advertisers. The advertisers have their own unique data. When you blend all of that in, and once you find the sweet spot, I think it is where you would find the economics of scale as well.
That's great, because we're seeing it right now, even during the show, right? It's about the hook. It's about that loop. And also how retention strategies benefit from a mix of perspectives and expertise. And that's what we've had right here, right now. So I want to thank each of you for what you've shared, and maybe just end with a very quick one piece of advice for people looking and watching, developers who want to improve their retention strategies. Real quick. Start with you, CK.
Oh, for us, it's always find people you enjoy working with, because again this 90%, 95% trial and error fail rate, and so you really got to work with people you love working with, that you can go through hard times with, that when you launch something and it fails, you guys are not going to give up, and you're going to get to the next idea, and stick together. And so I work with my best friends, middle school best friend Solon, and college best friend John, and co-founders and Steph as well. And so yeah, that's honestly been like, if I see me and a company, versus other companies, I have friends that, of course, yeah, and I think, yeah, I think that's really the difference between us and other gaming studios, is that like, yeah, we're able to stick together during a hard time. So
Buy into that because, hey, then there's no blame game at all. Completely bypass that. David, what about you? A piece of advice for developers.
I would say get inspired by what is trending and working, but don't do an exact copycat and try to bring like some twist into it so that you may have a chance to come with a breakthrough without um, trying too much, doing something too
And,
much.
and own your success. Absolutely. Fahim, what about it?
I am kind of old school, right? Listen to your users. Like you might have designed the best product, but if the user doesn't want it, the user doesn't want it, right? So it's always kind of in the soft launch, listen to the users, get those feedbacks in and use it before the hard launch. Because once you go at scale, and if you have high churn rates, you can't prevent it. But in a soft launch, if you have high churn rate, high drop off rate, it's easier to fix it. So, listen to the users. We have seen users control the way apps grow, and they have taken them to the next level. So, it's the end user always holds the power. The customer is always right. It's one of those things.
Well, there you go. And here we have given it. So, people listening in, our audience, try it out. Tell us what works. We want to hear that because the show doesn't stop here. The conversation doesn't stop here. So I thank all of you for sharing what you have. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Peggy.
thank you so much, Aaron. Thanks, Peggy.
Absolutely. And again, if you're tuning into the podcast, thanks for listening in. Tuning into the video podcast, thanks for watching. As I said, doesn't stop here. You can catch these deep dives by subscribing to our channel on Spotify and YouTube. You just got to smash that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episodes in the series where we continue to talk all about apps.